Narrator, voiceover. It was a quiet Tuesday morning in Providence, Rhode Island. Judge Frank Caprio prepared for another routine day. Traffic tickets, parking fines, minor violations. But what happened next would echo across the nation, because when the courtroom doors opened that morning, a hero rolled in, not with power or pride, but with quiet dignity and medals that told a story of sacrifice. Scene 1. The courtroom falls silent. The creak of a wheelchair filled the silent courtroom. A 74-year-old man entered, his jacket lined with shining military medals. He was James Everett Wilson, a Vietnam veteran, a man who had given more to his country than most could ever imagine. He had come not for glory, but for a $200 parking ticket. Judge Caprio looked up from his bench and spoke gently. "Mr. Wilson, you're here for parking in a disabled spot without a permit displayed. Is that correct?" The old man nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. I forgot to place my disabled card on the dashboard that morning. It was my mistake." The judge paused. Something about the man caught his eye. Among the medals pinned to his chest was one that only a handful of Americans ever receive, the Congressional Medal of Honor. Scene 2, a hero story revealed. Judge Caprio leaned forward. "Mr. Wilson, if I may ask, in which war did you serve?" Wilson's eyes softened. "Vietnam, Your Honor. 5th Group Special Forces." The courtroom went silent again. Judge Caprio studied the man and realized he was sitting before one of the most decorated heroes in American history. He opened the veteran service file and froze. Inside were yellow documents and photographs. A young soldier in uniform, standing proudly beside a helicopter, and a headline that read, "Special Forces Officer Saves 47 Soldiers Behind Enemy Lines." Gasps filled the courtroom. Scene 3, the sacrifice. Judge Caprio read aloud. In 1969, during a mission deep in the jungles of Vietnam, Sergeant James Wilson crossed enemy lines to rescue 47 wounded soldiers after a helicopter crash. He worked for 18 hours straight under heavy fire. While carrying the last 2 soldiers, he stepped on a mine and lost both his legs. Wilson looked down quietly. "I couldn't leave them behind, Your Honor," he said softly. "We never leave anyone behind." Tears began to flow around the courtroom. Even Judge Caprio's voice trembled. "Mr. Wilson, you didn't just serve your country. You gave parts of yourself for it." Scene 4, the personal connection. As the judge turned another page, he noticed something. A list. Names of the 47 soldiers Wilson had saved. Next to each name was a note about what they'd become. Doctors, teachers, police officers, fathers. Judge Caprio smiled through misty eyes. "You've kept track of them all?" Wilson nodded proudly. "Yes, sir. I write to them every Christmas." The judge read one name aloud, Jack Harrison. His expression suddenly changed. "Mr. Wilson? Jack Harrison, did you rescue him?" Wilson thought for a moment. "Yes, Your Honor. He was badly wounded, but alive." "Why?" Judge Caprio took a deep breath. "Jack Harrison was my cousin." A hush fell over the courtroom. The air was heavy with emotion. For a moment, time stood still. A judge and a soldier, forever linked by an act of heroism 50 years earlier. Scene 5, the verdict that made history. Judge Caprio stood up, his voice full of emotion. "Mr. Wilson, because of your sacrifice, my cousin came home. He lived, raised a family, and I owe that to you." He stepped down from the bench, walked up to Wilson, and extended his hand. "Sir, thank you, for my family and for this nation." Then, to everyone's astonishment, Judge Caprio knelt before the veteran. "I'm dismissing this case," he said firmly. "The fine is canceled, and more than that, I'm making a personal donation of $1,000, so you never have to worry about parking again." The courtroom erupted in applause. But the judge wasn't finished. He took off his black judicial robe, folded it carefully, and handed it to Wilson. "This robe stands for justice," he said softly. "But today, justice belongs to you." The veteran's eyes filled with tears. "Your Honor," he whispered, "I only did my duty." Caprio smiled gently. "And that's exactly why you're a hero." Scene 6, the legacy begins. That moment didn't just move the courtroom. It moved a nation. Within days, news channels across America replayed the story. Veterans everywhere shared Wilson's courage. Soon, inspired by Judge Caprio's compassion, Rhode Island lawmakers passed the Wilson Act, a law granting free public parking to all Medal of Honor recipients. 12 other states followed within a year, and veterans who once felt forgotten suddenly felt seen again. Scene 7, A Final Goodbye. Years later, when Wilson's health began to fail, Judge Caprio visited him at the VA hospital. With him was a young man, Jack Harrison's son. Mr. Wilson, the young man said, holding back tears, "Because of you, my father lived. Because of you, I exist." Wilson smiled faintly. "Your father was a brave man," he said. "You should be proud." A week later, the nation lost a hero. At his funeral, Judge Caprio stood before hundreds of people and spoke through tears. James Wilson taught us that true heroism is humble. He never sought glory. He simply did what was right because it was right. On Wilson's gravestone are just 6 words: "I just did my duty." And beneath them, smaller letters read, "He saved 47 lives and changed a nation." Outro, slow, inspirational music. Narrator: that day in Providence Municipal Court wasn't just about a parking fine. It was about compassion, gratitude, and justice with human heart. And thanks to Judge Frank Caprio and James Everett Wilson, America remembered what true honor looks like. If this story touched your heart, leave a comment saying where you're watching from, and help share this story of courage and kindness with the world. Because heroes like James Wilson should never, ever be forgotten